I encountered Farah's poetry before I encountered her. So I remember really clearly the moment I read her poem, The Goat. I remember the feeling first, this slow sense of devastation, like this strange sense of grief and wonder that I always feel when I read Farah's work, and the sense of being surrounded by a world that is so alive, it is almost frightening. And the question of if this means that is beauty frightening? Farah's poetry has guided me like very deeply whenever I think about eco-poetics and the ways poems begin when I just sit and stand outside and take time to learn the name of a bird or a seed or a flower. Because in fact, one of the very first things we talked about when we met for breakfast was that Windsor, where Farah was full of all these birds, and that she was trying to learn their names based on not just the way they looked, but I think also their calls in this life that she was living far away from the city. Farah's poetics are inextricable from politics, careful and devastating as they touch on topics that I can sometimes barely bring myself to think about most days. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be reminded that an important part of poetry is horror, Rilke's beauty and terror. We have a duty to investigate our horror, our fear, our worry as patiently as our love and tenderness. Because if we don't, we risk falling into patterns, lonely interiorities. And like June Jordan or Najma Sharif, Farah's poetry cuts across the paths that we run to inside us, to change them, to shift them, to relocate and release us where our heart sits, and how we might turn feeling into action. How we might learn to live in this lively and terrible world, how we might make it new again. Wow, syntax. This Farah.
I feel like you should have given me a warning because now you've succeeded in making me blush. So thank you for the generous introduction, Sanna. Sanna's book is unforgettable. It's so stunning, and it's literally as warm, as generous as she is. And here it is. And if you haven't gotten a copy yet, you have to. Like, this is like the debut of like the century. So if you don't get it, you're really missing out. And so the first poem that I'm gonna read is the one that Sanna mentioned, The Goat, and it's about Eid al-Adha. The Goat. What should I have said to the man in my grandmother's backyard after he emptied its head right into scorched grass? Maybe, why isn't there any blue before the blood browns? Or I'd rather not have watched. That afternoon, I ate well, and my heart was satisfied beating alone. Tell me how it is to crave this touch and take it. Your hands on flesh rising to meet you, opening up so willingly and closing around the cleaver. I wouldn't know. Someone could love me and I would seize, expose mooned eyes, take to closed doors and welcome home the short breath. This year has not made me a butcher. I can laugh in front of my grandmother at picnics with blood in my throat, remain good in the sun, around kids. I clean up after myself, barbecue what is left after the guests leave, throw the scraps to the dogs, and watch as they're torn apart. And the next poem is going to be about the Peshawar School massacre, which took place late 2014. Oxygen. The day is in full yawn. The day is a mouth that the boys jump into, their foul mouths cursing. The day is a panting plume of dust above their nicest shoes, above their cricket bats that glow with sweat when their mothers sweep them inside, their faces knotted in a dua or curse. The day had wrought Irani breath, sweet and fervent enough to pull at their kite strings as they bit into the boys' palms like blades. The day had a tongue that rang a school bell, and they yearned for its dry lips to press together and kiss their foreheads before bed. The day is in full yawn, which means the brain needs oxygen, and not a tongue like a gun, and not a school bus to be a yellow bullet. The day is a mouth until it is crushed by men who want to measure life in dominoes, and boys who fall one by one still in their uniforms. The day is a panting body dragging itself back to its friend to lay in his blood, to play pretend for the last time, and to show teeth intact. The day had breath scented of night blooming wounds, how they would open unwittingly to darkness. The day had a tongue that rang a siren that came to kiss the boys asleep. I am in full yawn. My mouth is a habit of curtains drawing themselves together, of huddling under the white sheets, and of covering the chests that shudder silent. My mouth is the panting imam after he calls again, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. To Allah we belong, and to him is our return. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Into the dirt. My breath is scented of skin, paper, the number of seconds in a school day. My tongue is the scream of a son of boys being buried under the horizon. The day is in full yawn, and I am always in need of oxygen. Well, speaking about grief, the last poem is also going to be about death. But this last poem touches on the eco-poetics that Sanna mentioned earlier. It's called Here Grass, and it includes a modified phrase from Ocean Vuong. Here grass. Dead, we will be perfect. Burying evolution with our two bodies. Here are the last northern white rhinoceroses, and then nothing. Don't worry. After 55 million years, the body will hit us like a season. The grass will be fresh and dewed. The grass will be parched blonde, but the grass will rise. It depends on the intimacy of the hand, how the bruise will hush when you see it coming, like a rain of vultures. They will crush the grass, but dig, and it will meet your square mouth, your swollen throat. When it ceased, I had lain there motionless, waiting for it to end, lips pressed to a torpid line. Panic is just a gust that intends to stop in the body, but flushes through to the other side. Panic is the grass of self-preservation, so naturally, we never want nightfall, the fatigue of the unfamiliar morning and its consumption. I live until the dark knocks and my body collapses towards the inevitable, towards the routine. By the daily shadow of the public, we will be held until our memory dissolves, so don't be afraid. After us, nothing will change. The horn will meet the skull, the calloused flesh the bones. The stone hoof will meet the grass, wherever it is, and we will be together. Thanks, everyone. Congratulations, Sanna.